Welcome back to the Rescue Mission Podcast by City Vision University, where we bridge tradition and innovation. To help build that bridge, Season 1 of our podcast is focused on the history and values of rescue missions, while Season 2 is focused primarily on innovations and best practices relevant to rescue missions. You can find the show notes for this episode and subscribe to our newsletter at rescuemissions.cityvision.edu.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving into your sources today on a really fascinating transatlantic story.
We are indeed. It's about these two major urban ministry movements, the City Mission movement starting over in the UK and the Gospel Rescue Mission movement that, really took off in the US.
Exactly. Two sides of the same coin, maybe, or maybe quite different. That's what we want to explore.
Yeah, nearly 200 years of history here. How faith-based action responded to massive changes in cities, industrialization, poverty. It's quite a story.
It really is. So our mission today, trace those roots, understand the core ideas, see how the inspiration jumped the Atlantic, compare how they kind of grew differently, and then look at where they are now, their legacy today.
It's a narrative of faith, definitely, but also social action, adaptation, and this constant focus on people on the margins, right in the city centers.
And the starting point you found is pretty striking, isn't it? About the founder of the very first city mission.
Yeah, David Nasmith. The sources mentioned he actually tried multiple times to become a foreign missionary. Thought he was headed for Africa or the South Seas.
But he got rejected.
He did. Apparently due to a lack of formal education, which is ironic given his later work. But that rejection, that closed door, it basically redirected his energy.
Towards home.
Towards the needs.
Yeah.
Right in front of him. And he ended up inspiring or founding something like 140 missions, both in the UK and, crucially, influencing efforts in America. Shows that your mission field might be closer than you think.
Absolutely. Okay, let's set that scene in Scotland. Early 1800s. Glasgow. What's it like?
Oh, it's intense. The Industrial Revolution is in full swing. The city's exploding population-wise, but that means terrible overcrowding, really grinding poverty in the tenements, and a sense that many people were just lost.
Spiritually adrift.
A perfect storm, almost.
Pretty much. And into this steps David Nasmith. He's only 27.
Young guy. What's his background? Well, he was already active in Christian circles, youth groups, supporting Bible societies, that kind of thing. Interested in foreign missions, as we said. But when that didn't happen, he turned his focus squarely on Glasgow's problems.
And that leads to the Glasgow City Mission, January 1826. What made it so different?
Okay, so first off, it's recognized as the world's first city mission, period. But the really radical thing, especially for that time, it was deliberately interdenominational and lay-led.
Meaning not tied to one specific church.
Exactly. Usually efforts like this were strictly run by, say, the Church of Scotland or the Baptists or whoever, and led by ordained ministers. Nasmith wanted Christians from all denominations working together. That was pioneering.
A really collaborative approach. And his vision, what was the goal?
It was broad, what we'd call holistic now. The sources say his aim was to offer Christian care to any in need, whatever that looked like. So yes, spiritual care was central, visiting the poor, sharing the gospel, but it went way beyond that. It was about physical, emotional, and spiritual needs, all interconnected.
Right, like those practical things they did, the literacy classes, for example.
Yeah. Evening classes for adults who couldn't read. And those chimney sweep schools, just amazing. For kids working tough jobs all day, recognizing education as a basic need.
So practical. What else?
Oh, loads. Distributing Bibles, sure, but also helping people get medical help, basic public health education, advocacy if people got into trouble with the law. Nasmith even spent a night in jail with condemned men.
Wow.
The phrase that sums it up from the sources is they aimed to do them good by every means in their power.
By every means in their power, that captures it. So if you boil down the core principles of this early movement.
Okay, several things jump out. One, interdenominationalism. Huge. Creating that parachurch space.
Outside formal church structures.
Right. Two, holistic ministry. The whole person matters, body, mind, spirit. Three, that dual focus. Evangelism and practical help, not choosing one over the other. Four, lay leadership. Using paid workers, often from the working class themselves, so they could relate. 5, systematic visitation, the district model, making sure they reached everyone methodically.
Very organized.
Yeah. And finally, 6, that clear focus on the marginalized, the poor, the unchurched, prisoners. Those often overlooked.
It sounds incredibly forward-thinking, almost like an early social enterprise, but faith-driven.
That's a good way to put it. The sources definitely frame it that way. Structured, strategic, aiming for social and spiritual impact.
And Nasmith didn't just stay in Glasgow, did he?
No, he had this real gift for inspiring people, getting things organized. He founded missions in Edinburgh, then the London City Mission in 1835, which became massively influential.
And this is where the American connection comes in strongly.
Exactly. Illness forced him to step back from the day-to-day in Glasgow, but that freed him up to travel. He came to the U.S. in 1830.
And did what? Just visited.
Oh no, he was instrumental. Helped set up around 31 missions in the U.S. and Canada. His own gravestone mentions his founding work in England, Scotland, Ireland, and America. It's spelled out.
That's the bridge right there.
That's the bridge. The Glasgow model, its methods, its holistic approach, directly inspired similar work across North America. Though it wasn't always easy for him. He faced money troubles, opposition. Some people just didn't get the interdenominational thing.
Okay, so let's follow that bridge. How did this idea land and take root in America? What was the soil like?
Well, America in the mid-19th century was fertile ground. You still had the ripples of the Second Great Awakening, that evangelical energy, the focus on personal conversion, but also social action.
A sense of responsibility.
Yeah, and a boom in voluntary societies, people forming groups for all sorts of causes. Nasmith's model, lay people getting involved, practical action, working together. It resonated with that American spirit of, voluntary association and getting things done.
Makes sense. But the sources point to Jerry McAuley as being really key for the gospel rescue mission side of things in the U.S. A distinct flavor, maybe.
Definitely a distinct flavor, and a very different backstory from Nasmith. McAuley was an Irish immigrant in New York, fell hard into crime, alcohol, in the notorious Five Points area.
Rough start.
Very rough. Ended up in Sing Sing prison. But there, he had his powerful conversion experience, got out, struggled, relapsed, but eventually found lasting sobriety through his faith.
And that experience became his driving force.
Absolutely. His own redemption story was the engine. So in 1872, or maybe late 71, sources differ slightly. He and his wife, Maria, who'd also known hardship and addiction, opened the Helping Hand for Men right on Water Street.
Notorious place, Water Street.
Infamous. Bars, brothels, extreme poverty. They went right into the heart of it.
And what was their focus? How was it different from, say, Nasmith's initial model?
The emphasis was very strongly on destitute men, specifically targeting rescue from alcoholism through faith. That was central. They provided practical help too, of course, food, coffee, a place to stay. Provisions and prayer meetings is how the sources describe it.
So more targeted towards addiction recovery initially.
Yes, that seems to be the defining initial thrust. And McAuley's own story, his testimony, was absolutely crucial. He could genuinely say, I've been exactly where you are. That carried immense weight.
That lived experience.
That became a hallmark, really.
Yeah.
Staff and volunteers who had overcome the same struggles. It was core to the American Rescue Mission identity. McAuley's approach was famously summed up as ice, water, and Jesus.
Huh. Practical and spiritual.
Pretty much abstinence and faith. And his work really sparked others, like Emma Mott Whitmore, who started the Door of Hope for Women, inspired directly by McAuley.
So Water Street wasn't just one mission, it became a model.
It became a catalyst.
Yeah.
More missions started popping up based on that model. And naturally, the need arose to connect them, to organize.
How did that happen?
Well, the first big step was the National Federation of Gospel Missions, NFGM, formed in New York in 1906. Interestingly, the Salvation Army was part of that early effort, too.
And that evolved?
It did. A more lasting group, the International Union of Gospel Missions, or IUGM, started in 1913. Over the decades, IUGM changed, became the Association of Gospel Rescue Missions, AGRM, around 2000, and now it's known as Citygate Network.
Citygate Network. Okay.
Yeah, and various leaders guided these groups, helping the movement grow and become more established.
And missions spread beyond New York.
Oh, absolutely, all across the country.
Yeah.
The sources give examples like Union Gospel Mission in St. Paul, the Rescue Mission in Central New York, Gospel Rescue Mission in Tucson. And you also see this move towards professionalization. Things like Rescue College, now City Vision University, getting accredited, training leaders, sharing best practices.
Okay, so we have these two streams originating from Nasmith's vision but taking different shapes. Let's really compare them. Shared heart, different paths. How do you see that historically and now?
Historically, the shared heart is undeniable. Both sprang from Christian compassion for the urban poor, both largely Protestant, both pioneers in working across denominations, both used lay workers, often paid, Both were systematic in their outreach, focusing on the marginalized.
And both mixed evangelism and practical help.
Exactly. That core DNA is very similar.
But the divergences are fascinating. Where did they really differ back then?
Well, two main things stand out in the research. First, that initial emphasis. Nasmith's UK city missions integrated things like education literacy, those chimney sweep schools right from the very start. It was fundamental social uplift alongside spiritual care.
Whereas
McAuley's model and the U.S. gospel rescue missions that followed had a more pronounced initial focus on rescue, especially from alcoholism. The dramatic personal testimony, the redemption story, was much more central, perhaps reflecting that American revivalist context. Different pressures, different emphasis.
Makes sense.
What else? The other key difference seems to be organizational structure. While both eventually formed national bodies, the U.S. lineage leading to Citygate Network seems to have developed a more formalized and extensive network structure over time. Things like accreditation, dedicated training universities like City Vision, that seems more developed in the U.S. context.
Interesting. So fast forward to today, what do these missions look like now? Are they still doing similar work?
Still very much active, yes, but definitely adapted. In the UK, you look at Glasgow City Mission today or others in the CMM UK network, they're tackling modern poverty, homelessness.
Wow.
GCM runs winter shelters, a city center project for broad support, family centers. Services include meals, yes, but also advocacy, helping with benefits, housing, asylum claims. They run classes, art, English, even college courses, job support. It's broad.
Still that holistic idea.
Very much so. And CMM UK connects about 20 missions, all holding to that faith plus practical aid vision. Like Southampton City Mission, running food banks, working in schools, community markets to counter the cost of living crisis.
And in the U.S., the Bowery Mission, as a descendant of Water Street.
Still there, still serving. Millions of meals, shelter beds, clothing. They have emergency services, shelters, showers, mobile medical vans. But a huge part now is their residential programs.
More than just a bed for the night.
Way more. These are structured programs for addiction recovery, escaping domestic violence, tackling unemployment. They offer counseling, job training, help finding housing, spiritual guidance, individualized plans. They even have programs for kids, like summer camps.
And Citygate Network connects hundreds of these.
Hundreds, yes. It's the main association. Their mission is about equipping leaders, sharing best practices, advocating helping move people from crisis to stability and toward lives of flourishing, as they put it.
Still tackling the big issues, poverty, homelessness, addiction.
Absolutely. Poverty, homelessness, addiction, mental health challenges. Life transformation through the gospel is still central, but there's also this increasing focus on trying to address the root causes. Collectively, Citygate members provide millions of nights of shelter, millions of meals. The scale is huge.
But it can't be easy. What are the big challenges facing both movements now?
Oh, the challenges are immense and often similar across the Atlantic. First, the sheer complexity of needs. People aren't just homeless. They often have co-occurring mental health issues, serious addiction problems, deep trauma. It's incredibly complex.
Makes sense. What else?
Funding. Always funding. It's precarious. Demand keeps rising. Cost of living crisis hits hard in the UK, for example. Competition for grants is tough. The funding mixes might differ a bit. UK, more reliant on donations and trusts. US, maybe more private corporate support and specific faith-based grants. Citygate members have huge collective revenue, but the pressure's constant everywhere.
And just operating in today's world.
Right, the operating context. They're faith-based organizations working in societies that are often quite secular. How do you maintain your identity and mission authentically? That's a constant navigation.
And the big picture stuff.
Exactly. Systemic issues. They're dealing with the fallout of pervasive poverty, the lack of affordable housing, gaps in healthcare. They can help individuals stabilize, but the underlying problems keep creating need. It's like mopping the floor while the tap is still running full blast.
That's a powerful image.
And finally, staff. Finding and keeping good staff is hard. Burnout is real. Dealing with trauma day in, day out takes a toll. And the sources mention a specific U.S. issue. New forms of homelessness linked to drug-induced mental illness, even appearing in suburbs, which requires whole new strategies.
So after nearly 2 centuries, what's the bottom line? The enduring legacy.
I think the legacy is huge. They really were pioneers of interdenominational, lay-led, holistic social action fueled by faith. That's massive. They've consistently served the most vulnerable, adapting again and again. They inspired countless others worldwide. And in the U.S., that rescue focus profoundly shaped how faith communities approached addiction.
Their longevity is just remarkable through so much change. What does the future hold? How do they keep going?
Well, there's potential for more collaboration, maybe even strengthening those transatlantic links again. Continued adaptation is key, blending evidence-based practices with that core spiritual commitment.
And you mentioned advocacy earlier. That seems like a growing edge.
Yes, definitely. The research suggests a growing understanding that helping individuals isn't enough. They need to engage in advocacy for systemic change, tackling those root causes, housing policy, healthcare access, poverty reduction.
Which, interestingly, kind of loops back to Nasmith's original vision, doesn't it? Partnering with civic groups, engaging with broader structures.
It really does. It's like expanding that idea of holistic care for the whole person to include working towards a healthier whole society, addressing the structures that create the need in the first place. It's a potential evolution, building on their history.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground from one man's vision in industrial Glasgow to these huge continent-spanning networks today. It's an incredible story of adaptation and endurance.
It truly is. It shows the power of that combination, deep faith conviction meeting practical compassion, and the absolute necessity of being willing to change and adapt to meet human need wherever you find it, however complex it gets.
So here's something to think about. Given those persistent, complex, systemic issues, we talked about the housing crisis, deep poverty, addiction, does the long history of holistic care within these movements actually call them, maybe call all of us, to look beyond just helping individuals and really engage with changing the very structures that contribute to so much suffering?
We hope you enjoy this episode and that it both inspires and equips you to serve the least, the last, and the lost in Jesus' name. You can find the show notes for this episode and subscribe to our newsletter at rescuemissions.cityvision.edu. If you would like to learn more about City Vision University's courses and degree programs, visit our website at www.cityvision.edu.